Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to Atlanta, Georgia. It is Championship Monday in the college football playoff, the national championship game in college football. The Ohio State Buckeyes, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Gulick and Anthony Moeglin with you for our coverage on Ohio State Buckeyes on SI. Joined this team all season long, and it felt like from the outset, as so many did, that this. But you never take it for granted because so many things can go wrong. These are really special days, really special moments for a team that thinks that they have what it takes to get it done, and they got 60 minutes to go do it.
Yeah, it's amazing thinking back on this very long season, right? This is the first time two college football teams have played 16 games in 1 year. Think back all the way to August, how they went through that starting stretch that kind of felt like that preseason. And then they got into Big Ten play through September and October. And then stuff started to get kind of weird in November, right? You had that Nebraska game where it didn't feel right. You had that team up north game where it definitely didn't feel right. And then you get into late December and into January. Not the pace, but have become a totally different group. And they look like one of the best teams in the best teams in the last 5 years. Hard to stop.
That looks, and it's no secret that we were playing. Trying to keep in mind that it could be a 16-game season. You never really know how to though you want to be that time. Ohio State feels with pretty good health. And not to say they do feel real good about where they are coming in. Anthony is on fire. We go Notre but all the other stuff that goes into the conversation of the game, it feels like got a pretty good shot.
Yeah, you got to feel like you're really good. Once that ball's kicked off, you're going to realize that all the pomp, all the circumstance goes away, and it becomes 60 minutes of football. And the nice part is for Ohio State, it feels the way two teams are very similar in terms of personality. They're two teams that have had horrible losses. Notre Dame fell to Northern Illinois in September. Ohio State obviously loses that game to the team up north. But both teams have responded in their own respective ways. Ohio State's become this crazy juggernaut that feels unstoppable. Notre Dame, on the other hand, has just ripped off 13 straight wins, and they've done it in a number of different ways. They've won games fighting in the trenches and dragging teams into the mud. They've also won games where they've had to score 50 points. You think back to the USC game a few weeks back. So they've done it in a number of different ways, and they present a certain number of challenges that Ohio State's got to be aware of. But I think when push comes to shove, you're going to see that this Ohio State team is just on a different level athletically, and it's going to be really, really hard for Notre Dame to stick with them for 60 minutes.
So I want to keep our immediate pregame coverage maybe now more focused on the game itself. The reality is these two teams have had lots of really good experiences throughout the year. And I don't want to downplay anything that either of them have done statistically leading into this. But none of that matters. It's about how they match up against each other. And I don't know that Notre Dame is going to be able to cover Ohio State's receivers because how do I say this kindly? I don't think they've seen the passing attack that Ohio State can bring here. They've obviously had some tough games, right? I'm not downplaying what Notre Dame's been able to do. But look at Penn State's receiving corps, right? Notre Dame arguably could have lost that game. I think that's a kind way to say it. Penn State's receivers had nothing to do with that win, right? They certainly haven't seen the dynamic passing attack that Ohio State can do. I want to know from the former quarterback, watching Texas in the Cotton Bowl take away Jeremiah Smith, that's obviously got to be mission number one. That defense, how can they get a take out of it?
Yeah, I think the conversation at this point all week long has been Notre Dame still saying they're going to play in a lot of man-to-man coverage. If the way I'm seeing it, that's a lot of fool's gold. That's a lot of bluffing by the Irish because you truthfully can't line up against these guys. Jeremiah Smith is the best player on the field, bar none. And then, you take him away. Let's say you double him up, 2 guys. All right, that leaves Emeka Egbuka and Carnell Tate one-on-one, which are both losing prospects if you're Notre Dame. What I'm seeing is a lot of what Texas did was just drop back into zones and make Will Howard consistently beat you. It's not that he can't do it, but when you make a quarterback have to go down the field, matriculate the ball down the football field, and make 5, 6, 7 throws on a drive and be super accurate, that's really challenging, opposed to what Oregon did was make him make 1 or 2 throws, and it was 70 yards to the house, right? If you can keep number 4 in front of you and make Will Howard have to make a bunch of passes, a bunch of short passes, be accurate, and make good decisions consistently. I think that's where Notre Dame feels that, hey, if they were going to catch an advantage somewhere, it would be there. Everywhere else, I think Ohio State has the advantage. I think the one spot, if you're Notre Dame and you're looking at this game, you're like, hey, let's make Will Howard consistently beat us and make him prove it. And I think he can do it, but that's how I think Notre Dame's going to try to approach this one.
Well, the Buckeyes have certainly found some success running the ball as well. Travion Henderson, I mean, he is as healthy this late in the year as he has been at any point during his college career. I think Quinshon Judkins has shown a ton of value and worth to this team late in the season, and they give Ohio State good balance. But in this playoff, since the loss to Michigan, the Buckeyes have stopped saying, look, we're going to run to set up the pass. It's been the other way around. It's trying to get the ball to the outside, throwing screens and things that are extensions of the run game that give Ohio State a chance to play to their strengths. I think you could see a big game from G. Scott at tight end. Certainly you could see Carnell Tate playing the same kind of role given what we saw in the Cotton Bowl. You know, the star power across the board for Ohio State won't be ignored. And you got to pick and choose your spots. It's hard to cover everybody, especially if protection holds up. So if I'm Notre Dame, I'm trying to apply as much pressure on Will Howard as possible to speed up his clock and try to make him make some bad throws, because I think that's the way that they can get out of this early.
Yeah, no doubt. And the positive for Ohio State is that the Notre Dame defensive line is pretty beat up. You're going to have a couple key injuries on that Notre Dame front line, which is going to play a huge factor. As we got who's coming onto the field behind us. We got a little Buckeye action. There we go. I love seeing it. You got Notre Dame getting warmed up right behind us. But you're right. If you're Notre Dame, you're like, here, the perfect ingredient is we can't stop these guys everywhere, so get home to the quarterback. The problem is Ohio State's offensive line has become an unsung hero of this team. Josh Fryer's been spectacular. Donovan Jackson flipping from guard to tackle has been nothing short of miraculous for this team. And then inside, Luke Montgomery stepping in against Tennessee and becoming a guy who they can trust at all times has been great. And then Tegra Shabola, Austin Saravold have been great as they've done that three-man rotation. And then Carson enough about him. Playing center after Seth McLaughlin comes out is a really challenging thing, and he's been able to do that at a very high level. And when you have a good center, at least the rest of your offensive line is always going to be on the same page.
My gut tells me that if Notre Dame wins the toss, that they're going to defer. I think there's an element of you got to be who you are.
Yeah.
And I think Marcus Freeman, defense guy, I don't think he's going to change his game plan. But my question going into this is, after having seen what Ohio State has done to some really good teams, if you're Notre Dame, does it enter your equation of, hey, if they get the ball first by our own shooting, do we want to let them take the first shot? I don't know. I think that's something I got to consider.
It's a true pick your poison, right? You face the defense in the country to come out, or you face the best offense with some of the best athletes you've ever. If it's me, I tend to agree with you. If I'm Notre Dame, I'm giving Ohio State the ball, because if there's one guy who you can force to start slow, it would be Will Howard. I know for a fact that this Ohio State defense is going to have a great day today. Notre Dame primarily runs the football, and Ohio State primarily stops the run, and they do it better than anybody in the country. If I'm Notre Dame, I'm kicking that thing away and just praying to God that somehow, some way, you can keep the Buckeyes in front of you.
All right. I think we've hit on some of the position groups, and by this point, everybody's probably heard ad nauseum all of these pregame thoughts. So let's put a wrap on it. What is the difference maker in this game in your mind?
Yeah, the difference maker to me is Ryan Day, Chip Kelly. I've had this as my number one key for the last 3 weeks. If they come out aggressive and show this entire team, this entire stadium, that they're coming for blood, and they come out hot early, this Ohio State this game could get run away. I mean, this could get ugly, I think, because if you can get Notre Dame into chase mode, this isn't a team that can score a bunch of points with you. Now, the flip side of that is if they come out conservative and keep Notre Dame in the game, that's where you're thinking, the Irish are going to stick in. And if the Irish stick in it, you never know. But I think if Chip Kelly, Ryan Day come out aggressive, unlock that offense, let them go vertical, let them make some big plays, I think it could get ugly quick.
I tend to agree. My initial thought was more Will Howard focused. I think if Will Howard takes care of the ball, the guys in this game. If Will turns over more than once, I think it's a little bit interesting. And Notre Dame is talented. They've done a few things this year on special teams. It's a group extremely well coached. And I think there's going to be somewhere along the way tonight where you're going to see something unusual we'll find out if Ohio State's ready.
And very opportunistic. They force turnovers.
Sure.
If the ball, like you said, if the ball is ever in danger, Notre Dame's got a really good way of coming up with it. So it's critical that Will Howard is not cautious with the ball, but protects it and keeps it in Ohio State's hands.
And I tend to think that maybe where you went with this on a little more Ryan Day, a little more Chip Kelly focused, if they're calling plays and designing here coming in, and allow Will to read and react and not have to think as much as he might otherwise. I think that will put Will in a good spot. I'll let you go first. I got a final score of mine. Where's your head at?
All right. Ohio State 38, Notre Dame 13. I think Ohio State gets out quick, and unfortunately, I think it's over. I think it's over fast.
38-13.
I think this Ohio State team's got something about them, and they leave no doubt's kind of been their mantra. They've left no doubt, and I think today's a crowning jewel and a fun one at that.
I'm not going to go quite that wide, but I'm not too far off. I think Ohio State wins this 30-12. I see Notre Dame moving the ball a little bit. I think it's a game where Ohio State has the upper hand and is going to have a little bit of trouble putting Notre Dame totally away. I don't think that this is an Oregon-type game where you blink twice and all of a sudden it's 34-0. I don't quite see that. I love the fight in this Notre Dame team. I think they're really tough. But I think Ohio State has enough advantage at enough places on the field that the window for Notre Dame to win this game is small. It can happen, but I think it's pretty narrow. And I think Ohio State learns its lesson from what happened in Ann Arbor, and I think they get it done. So I'm going to go Ohio State 30, Notre Dame 12. Both teams are ready. We are about an hour and 45 minutes to kick off. That's extremely cool. Ohio State looking for national championship number 9. Of course, Notre Dame, one of the more storied programs in the history of college football. They've won more than a dozen titles in their long, storied history. Both teams are trying to win it on the field tonight. Notre Dame has never won the college football playoff. Of course, the Buckeyes won the inaugural playoff, but have not won. And there's so many fun slivs and stats. I don't think to these teams the reception